Now, before I sort of get into the nitty-gritty of our degrees, I just want to think about why we are here. So I've been doing this for a long time. I clearly love biosciences, and I'm guessing you guys are here for a similar reason. And what we have up here are some of the greatest challenges facing humanity. So if you look at this list of global challenges, raise a hand if there's anything on here that you would either want to learn about, or better still, would like to try and tackle during your lifetime. Oh, I see lots of hands going up. Oh, and that includes parents. Fantastic. And this is not surprising me, because I think this is why we are here. And this is really the driver behind what we try to do in Sheffield. This is not about going to school and doing the course. This is about making a difference. The biosciences are responsible for many, if not most, of the global challenges facing humanity. That's scary thought. But the good news is that solutions to pretty much all of the global challenges facing humanity can be found in the biosciences. So what we are trying to do here, and training you to do here, and actually have you be part of, is tackling those global challenges. And if we're thinking about what sort of degree we want to do, just thinking about these motivations is not a bad way of making our decisions. So we're not talking just in hypothetical terms here about, yes, we want to learn how our degrees match to a global challenge. We're talking about practical application. Because what we've got on here are some of the global initiatives. So on the far side, we've got the impact of cancer. On this side, we've got the changing environment and the impact of CO2 levels. So these are global initiatives that are trying to tackle these big challenges. In the middle, we've got the UN Sustainable Development Goals. So this is a strategy developed by the United Nations. And it's identified 17 big challenges that are facing the world. And these are quite diverse. So this will include things such as poverty, but it will also include things like sustainability or healthcare, and also social issues such as gender identity. These are things that we need to be thinking about as a planet. And because this is a UN project, there are 30 different countries involved in these initiatives. And here at Sheffield, we have 80 projects running, so these will cover all of these different initiatives. What this means for you is that you're not coming here to go to school, you're coming here to be part of something. You're going to be exposed to global policy. You're actually going to be contributing to global policy as part of your education, which is why it becomes really exciting. Now, if we think about the programs building on that list of ideas, here we have the list of global challenges that we saw on the first slide. So what degree might we be picking if we wanted to be thinking about this? Now, our most flexible degree is our biological sciences degree. In this degree, you can either keep it super flexible, or you can focus in any particular area. The choice is up to you. And a lot of people will actually start in the biological sciences because they're not quite sure where they want to end up. And any of these could become the focal point of your degree as part of that biological sciences degree. So this is the degree if you either want a very broad education or you're just not quite sure where you want to settle at the moment. Now, I know a lot of you will actually have a pretty clear idea where you want to end up and what excites you at the moment. So we do have the more classical type degrees. So if you are really interested in the biodiversity crisis or climate change, then maybe you want to be looking at the zoology degree as well as biological science. If your motivation is to think about sustainability and food supply or biotechnology, a lot of this lies in the molecular understanding, so maybe you want to be looking at the biochemistry degree. If instead you're interested in human biology and aging and antibiotic resistance, then maybe you want to be looking at the biomedical science degree. And what you will see is that these don't line up neatly because there's a lot of flexibility and interchange between these courses. So this will help you pick the theme that suits you best, but it doesn't tie you down. This is not limiting and eliminating other aspects. Another way we might think about how we're going to choose our degree is to think about what you're doing now. What are you studying at school that excites you? What motivates you? What are you good at? So we've got some sort of topics that you might be studying, so you might be thinking about cell biology or evolution or genetics. These are core principles that underpin all of bioscience. So you're going to come across these in all degree types. So that's not going to help with our decision making, but it's a key part of all the courses. But what instead if you're an ecologist or you're interested in conservation? So maybe if these are the subjects that excite you, you want to be looking at the zoology degree or the biological sciences. Whereas if you are a pure plant scientist, then maybe biochemistry and biological sciences is a better way to go. If you are particularly interested in microbiology or pharmacology or neuroscience, then maybe you want to be looking at the biochemistry and biomedical science degree, or if you're more clinical and more interested in perhaps cancer and aging, biomedical science and biochemistry are still there, but we'll probably put them in the opposite order. So think about what you enjoy and think about which course matches up to that. And that should make it really easy to come to a concrete decision on what you want to do, knowing, of course, you can still go down that biological sciences route if you want to delay that decision until you've got more information later in your career. The final way we might think about choosing degree courses is just to look at the sort of content in here. I'm not going to go through this piece by piece. So out on the stands out there, we've got the QR codes, which will link you to the modules in the degrees in the current year. Modules always slightly change over time. The content and the topics will not. So look at the sorts of topics that are covered currently in those degrees, and that's going to tell you what the sorts of things you will be covering when you start a degree, and that should help you see whether this is going to match your interests. So those are the degree types. And the next question we want to think about is actually how do we teach those things? And one of the most common questions you get is how much contact time do we get? And the easiest way to show that is just to think about what the timetable might look like. So our contact time and our independent study is very much a 50-50 split. So you'd expect to spend 15 to 20 hours a week on campus, so this would be lectures, tutorials, practicals, and then a similar amount of time in independent study. Recognising, of course, that independent study doesn't necessarily mean in isolation. You might still be working with your peers and colleagues around you. So you can see that the time is split very evenly down the middle, so that you get lots of hands-on time, lots of contact time. And you can see from the timetable there are a couple of other features in here that are worth noting. So on the Wednesday afternoon, the blue box, so this is ring-fenced and protected, so that lectures wouldn't be scheduled on a Wednesday afternoon, so that you guys can start to engage with societies, and perhaps even more importantly, sports teams. So this protected time enables people to be free to join the sports team and engage in competition. And then finally, we've got the orange box, Friday afternoon. Who doesn't want to go to the pub on a Friday afternoon? The real reason for having this on here, though, is just to recognise the importance of balance. We want our students to work hard. We also want you to play hard. And finding that balance is absolutely crucial. You will work better and be more productive if you also have a great social life. So recognising that, making sure that you've got time to go to the pub with your mates, join societies, really is important. So we pay attention to that in the timetable to make sure that you have good social lives as well as great academic input. In terms of how we teach, this can really be split into our 5 pillars of teaching. Now, on the left-hand side of the green, we've got the traditional lecture format, much as we're doing at the moment. I'm going to come back to that one. In the orange box, we've got small group tutorials. We know that people learn much, much better when they are applying knowledge rather than just sitting there listening to something. So the tutorials support the lecture content. It's your chance to apply that knowledge, work in a small group, have your voice heard. And it's also something that's really, really popular with students. And you will stay with your tutor group and your academic tutor throughout your degree. In the middle, we've got practicals. Biosciences is a practical subject, and I'm sure that everybody here wants to be engaged in practicals. So in the first year alone, you're going to be spending between 3 and 6 hours in either the labs or in the field, depending on the sort of course that you're doing. So you're getting lots of hands-on time to actually do practical work. In the purple box, we've got skills for life. We want to think about what comes next. And there are lots of transferable skills. So thinking about CV writing, thinking about giving presentations, thinking about IT skills. These are super transferable. The reason that people trained in STEM careers are so desirable for employers is that we teach you to think. And these transferable skills and actually how you apply knowledge out of the ring fence of your specific subject becomes really important. And then finally, in the red box, we've got projects. You might say, isn't this just the same as practicals? In some ways. I think the difference between a practical and a project is who is responsible for this work. In a project, you are taking responsibility for your education. You are driving the direction of study. And this is absolutely crucial to our development. Now, I'm sure that all universities will run a final year capstone project. We are no different in that respect. A whole range of different types of capstone projects that you can do in your final year. But what we don't want is for you to sit here for 2.5 years waiting to do that. So if you come to Sheffield, year 1, week 1, you will be doing a small group project with your tutor group. So this means you're immediately taking control, applying yourself, integrating with others, and really using knowledge. And this enables you to hit the ground running and actually be really productive right from the outset of your degree. So we found it's made a big difference. Now, another question that's often asked is why Sheffield? I'm sure it's the one that you're weighing up as you look at presumably lots of different universities. And I think at the top of the pile for why we recommend studying at Sheffield is research, possibly not the answer you expected. So research institutions are assessed every 5 to 6 years for the quality of their research output, so whether we are making a global impact. Now, the Biosciences of Sheffield have scored in the top 5 in the UK for the last 20 years, it's over 20 years now. There's only one other institution that can claim that, and that's Oxford. So what that means is that Sheffield has been really at the forefront of research and making global impact consistently for over 2 decades. Now, relating that back to where you're sitting at the moment and thinking about my degree, what this now means is that when you're going into a lecture, you're not learning 3rd or 4th or 5th hand from a teacher in school or from a textbook. You are learning from the people that actually did the work. The leading experts in their field are teaching you about work that they did, and this is how you are now learning. So you are learning from the best. And this is why we put so much focus on the integration of teaching and research. They are not separate. This is how Future Greatness is built, by actually bringing you on that journey through the research program. And if we think about the skills that you're developing as part of that, this graphic kind of sums it up. So it's learning to think, it's learning to use data, it's learning to extract information from written sources, it's learning to communicate both in written and verbal forms. And you can probably immediately see, looking at this slide, these are super transferable skills. Our students are always really, really appealing to employers because we train people to think. We train you to be brilliant. And so that's the challenge in front of you. Learn to think and take control. In practical terms about how we can support this and facilitate your student journey, we want to think about the sort of support that's provided. So we've already mentioned tutor groups a couple of times. You will have an academic tutor who you will be with throughout your course. So this is somebody that will know what you're doing, what your strengths are, what you need help with. And so this is something you can always contact. So this is a great way of getting inputs, and of course it's backed up by the tutor group around you. However, we've also got more specialised support, such as careers and employment, both tutors to talk to directly, and also the Employability Centre in the Students' Union. So this will give you chances to think about your career, writing CVs, applying for jobs and finding work and gaining experience whilst you are here. These will all fill out your CV and make you more appealing in the future. Now the third one is the one that's most personally precious to me, and I think that's for Scarlett as well. And that's thinking about some of the challenges that we face as individuals. We all get sick sometimes, and perhaps the bigger issue is mental health. This is a really big global problem, people facing mental health challenges, and we know that over half of students will encounter some sort of mental health challenge at some point during their degree. And what we need to do is make sure that is supported so that you can move forward. And what we've done to address that is something quite unusual. So there's only one other place that does this. We've brought the medical support in-house. So rather than go and find a GP somewhere in the city when you arrive, we've got GP service within the student health centre, meaning that everything is integrated together. So if you are facing troubles, that then can be linked back to your academic work, and we can put the academic support in place. Equally, if things are going on with the academic support, it's easier to identify that maybe there's an underlying health problem there, and we can make sure that you're getting the health support. So linking all this together really does mean that you don't get neglected and then end up just falling off the ladder. And at the bottom, we've got things such as disability support, dyslexia support. We know, again, a lot of people suffer with dyslexia. And I think the point I'd want to make with this slide is that we want you guys to feel your potential. We want you to achieve to your greatest skill and not be limited by your greatest weakness. If we can find ways to mitigate the weaknesses, then you can be brilliant. And that's why we see our students being so consistently brilliant. Okay, so we've talked about these sorts of different scientific subjects. We can also think about some degree variants and degree options. So at the top of this table, so this is the year plan, we've got the standard BSc degree, still the most popular degree, so that's our 3-year degree. However, you can add extra stuff onto that. The truth is, these days, a bachelor's certificate is not a passport to a good job on its own. You need extra stuff. And one of the most common ways of doing that is to do a master's after the degree. So what we've done is that we've integrated a master's into a combined course. So this is far more efficient and has far more coordination, so you don't end up wasting time by doing repetitive stuff that you didn't need. So this is one option, to go for that integrated master's degree. A second option in the third and fourth rows would be our sandwich degrees. So in the green box, we've got placement year. Now this might be a placement in industry, it might be with a charity, it might be with a government body. This is a chance to actually spend a year in the workplace and start to build workplace skills that relate to your interests and your final career aspirations. Similarly, you could do a year abroad as sandwich year. So this is going to another university in another country, and so this is bringing in a different type of experience, because now you're bringing in the culture and recognising the fact that different countries around the world do behave and think in different ways, and it's also a great chance to actually see part of the world. Some of you might want to go for the monster 5-year degree. I realise when you are 17, 5 years sounds a very, very long time. But university is a lot of fun, so actually dragging that out is not itself a bad thing. But perhaps more importantly, students coming out of a 5-year degree are outstanding. They can walk into pretty much what they want to do, just because of the amount of experience that they have gathered along the way. And so we do in fact see that this degree is very, very popular. So I'd certainly consider it as an option. In terms of the entry requirements for our degrees, we keep it pretty simple. So the integrated master's degrees, either with or without the sandwich, are AAA, and the BSc courses, again including the sandwich variants, are AAB. As simple as that. In terms of subject requirements, biomedical science, we find that there aren't particular pockets of knowledge we necessarily need to have, so we just say we need 2 sciences, we're not too fussy what they are. In biological science, we find that you do need biology, so we want a biology A level amongst your 3. And in biochemistry, probably not surprisingly, we should be trying to give with some chemistry, so we would look for that at A level. But you can see that these requirements are actually pretty flexible, because what we find is best is students that are ambitious and know how to think. So the fact that you're scoring well at A level means you're good enough, rather than relying on particular bits of information. If we look at a couple of examples of people that have done the varying degrees, so these are integrated master students. On the left-hand side, we've got Karindi, so she did a biochemistry degree, and she did her project looking at developing an assay to measure HIV viral load. Now, of course, through COVID, we all became very aware about the importance of being able to detect a viral infection. It's how the world got back on track. So Harini wasn't working on COVID, but she was doing that sort of work. And if we think about what this means, it means that the project that Harini did for her master's degree has led to the development of a product that is now having clinical impact. In the middle, we see that Chris was working, was interested in gene networks, and he did his master's project on biodiversity, thinking about how gene networks both contribute to the biodiversity crisis, and more importantly, might be tweaked to address the biodiversity crisis. So this is a cutting-edge environmental type project. And then on the right-hand side, we've got Bethany, who did biomedical science, and she did her master's project on Notch signaling. I suspect nobody here knows what Notch signaling is. It's actually a really important gene. So it's one of the most conserved genes across life, and it controls early development. So everything we see in the living world is going to be directed by Notch, meaning that this is an absolutely essential molecule. And the thing that all of these three projects have in common is that they're at the forefront of science. This is not going in the lab and doing the practical. This is doing a project which is making an impact on the world. Alternatively, if we look at people that have done the placement years, so Davina did a zoology degree and did her placement at Microsoft. That might not be the destination you expected, but Davina found that while she was certainly getting the skills she needed from a zoology degree, she came to the conclusion that she didn't want to effectively be a biologist or a scientist at the end of it. She was more interested in the business, in the science side of things. So she jumped on the opportunity to find a placement, to secure a placement with Microsoft, develop her business skills, and as a consequence, she formed very quickly into being Senior Account Director at Walk-In Media. She has used her placement to get the skills and set herself up for her career. Sam, perhaps a little bit more traditional, so he did a biomedical science degree and did his placement at Hammersmith Medicine Research, and he did spend about half of his time in the lab there, but he also spent about half his time working in management, and concluded, based on that experience, that although he wanted to be working against a scientific background, he was more interested in the management side of things. And so he's gone on to very quickly become a senior account executive at CGI Health, again using his placement. Chrysanne is perhaps a little bit more typical, so she did a biological sciences degree with a genetics focus, and she did her placement at Pfizer, spent most of her time in the lab. After graduating, she's gone straight back to Pfizer. So she has used her placement to secure her future career. So you can see how the placement years can really support you along the way, and possibly not in the way that you expected when you started your degree. So we've spent a lot of time looking outside the university. If we look back inside at some of the spaces, so some of these you're going to get the chance to see today. So one would be our multi-user teaching lab. So these are large spaces which we can set up to tackle sort of effectively any sort of subject. So when you're interested in the molecular sciences, when you're more interested in physiology and organism level, or when you're interested in the population level, you can set up practicals in these labs. And you can see that if you're in there with lots of your colleagues, it's not obvious from the picture, but some of these people in there are also going to be PhD students and academics. So although there's a lot of you in this space, you are getting that direct support. So that's the larger flexible spaces. We have a lot of really quite focused spaces that are worth thinking about. And one of these is the Julia Gardner Centre. So you're going to get the opportunity to go and visit Julia Gardner Centre after the talk if you wish to do so. I recommend you do. This is super exciting. So this is a partnership we have with the NHS, where we receive samples from the NHS dealing with either patient cancer samples or rare diseases, and looking at the genetic polymorphisms that lead to those. Now, I'm sure you're all aware that in most cases, cancer can be treated really, really effectively if it's caught early enough. I'm sure you're also aware that most of the time it isn't caught early enough. And in an environment where we're facing these healthcare waiting lists, if you're waiting a year for a cancer diagnosis, you might have been fine if you were diagnosed right at the start. Not so great a year on when you've been sat on the waiting list. So what we've done, working with the NHS, is develop an analytical pipeline. We receive the samples, we look for chromosomal abnormalities, and then we can flag patients that are likely to face serious problems. That goes straight back to the NHS, and those patients will then go straight to the top of the waiting list. What this means is that our students, because this is a student lab, this is not what I do, this is what students do, are saving lives as part of their degree. Working with samples, you're diagnosing patients that would be facing fatal consequences, so actually saving lives by actually fast tracking these diagnoses. So that's a really exciting thing to do. Alternatively, if you're interested in genetics or possibly animal behaviour, you might want to think about the Zebrafish Society. Now, I'm sure in class you've all done the sort of Stuku type genetic crosses, the Mendelian crosses. If you cross this genotype with this genotype, you get the F1, what's the phenotype going to be? What we can now do in the university is actually do that in real life. So we might see how two different genes interact when we cross this fish. What is the phenotype in the resultant offspring? So that's the sort of now real-world genetics that you can start to tackle. This becomes even more exciting when you combine it with the next facility, which is our light microscopy facility. Now, when I was at school, if you wanted to look at a tissue sample, so a 3D sample, what you would do is fix it, embed it in the paraffin block, chop it into thin slices, stain it, put it on a glass slide, and look at it under a microscope. I suspect you've all done similar things, probably looking at onion epithelia, something like that. This is a really destructive process. So what we do these days is use lasers. I don't mean we use lasers to cut it, I mean we use lasers to look at specific points in the 3D sample while it is still intact. So we no longer damage the sample, so we're not looking at something that's been completely trashed, we're looking at something that is completely undamaged. Take that to its logical conclusion. If we are not harming the sample, you can do that while the sample is still alive. So these zebrafish that we're looking at, if we've expressed a fluorescent molecule, we can then take that live zebrafish and see how the activity or the position of that molecule changes, perhaps in response to a drug or a change in response to a temperature change. And so you can actually combine these types of facilities together to do some really cool science. That's what's at the micro level. If we want to go the other direction, we can look at the macro level and populations, and this is our climate change facility. Now this is under the car park just outside, and in this facility we can control all aspects of the environment. So the temperature, the light cycle, the solar radiation, the humidity, the composition of the air itself. And in this centre we can reproduce any climate, past, present or future. So if you're interested in the implications of climate change, then we can set up a cabinet which is perhaps capped a couple of degrees higher, it's got the associated change in humidity, and see how that affects perhaps the fertility of wheat grain, and actually see what the consequences of climate change are. Or I guess you could go in the opposite direction and recreate prehistoric times, try growing dinosaur. I don't think they do that, I really think they should, but in principle they could. So this again is a really cutting edge science that you get the opportunity to work with. And then finally on our facility list, and again this is a place you can see, go and visit today, I recommend going over there, meet Kane, who is a lunatic and will talk non-stop for a very long time. So this is a Victorian museum that we rescued, and this means that we've got preserved samples from across the years and across species. So if we're thinking about something like evolution, biodiversity, rather than looking in textbooks or online, you actually now have these real samples in front of you. You can see how these closely related species differ. You can think about actually how differences in the environment have driven these changes and really start to understand evolution. So this is a really valuable facility that we have. Now those are all facilities inside the campus itself. Of course we do look outside of campus. So we have field courses, and this might be a field course abroad in places such as Borneo or Sweden, or they might be closer to home, go to Anglesey, or the Peak District, which is right on our doorstep. So this is a chance for you guys to get in the field. So these would be summer projects where you actually spend a decent amount of time with a member of academic staff actually in the field doing science that supplements your degree. Those are relevant to people that do field type degrees, so there's all zoology, biological science. but everybody else isn't forgotten about because we have field courses in the lab, which is a name I always struggle with, but it's a chance to do additional work. So we've got summer courses in human genetics, applied molecular biology. Now we're very lucky today because one of the things that runs is the iGen program. So this is the International Genetic Engineering Machine. This is an international program where students are actually doing experiments in the lab, running their projects through the summer. They have an annual conference which is being held in Sheffield, and so a lot of the people that are involved with that have got set up some of the things that they've been doing in our lab. So you can go and see that and actually look at the work that's been done by our students. Now, before I wrap up and hand over to Scarlett, it is worth just thinking about the future and where we want to see you end up. So, if we think about career trajectories, we've already seen some of these when we were looking at the placements and masters. But a couple more examples here. So on the left-hand side, we've got Julie who did a biomedical science degree, and she loved research. She wants to be a researcher. So she has gone from her degree and to her PhD at the Institute of Cancer Research, which is the foremost institute for research in the UK. So if you want to do research, you will be set up to pursue that path. In the middle, we have Niall. Niall is interesting. So Niall did a biological science degree and wants to focus on sustainability. And as a consequence, he very quickly moved to become a senior policy advisor to the government through DEFRA, advising on food sustainability. Now, after a few years, he thought, UK, it's a bit small, isn't it? Let's think bigger than that. So he's now working with the Space Agency, thinking about off-world food sustainability. That is bonkers. But it really highlights how high you can aim. And reach the stars literally in Dallas States, because you can be brilliant, and that's what we want to see you do. Or if you want to stay close to home, Sarah is a good example because she did a placement as part of her biochemistry degree, where she was situated down at the hospital, which is 10 minutes walk down the road. She's come back, finished her degree, and immediately gone back into the hospital as a clinical scientist, having built her reputation there. So we can see people going in all sorts of paths and directions. So whatever calls to you, you can do that. Right, now I'm going to pass across to Scarlett, but I did just want to flag these badges because it's something we were really excited about. This is the What Uni Student Choice Awards. Now, we're excited about this because this is what the students say, this is what journalists say. This is how students perceive universities to be. And Sheffield was voted University of the Year for 2024. So this is a huge accolade. So when you speak to the people that really matter, and that's the students, they will tell you that Sheffield is a great place to study, both in terms of living here, but also in terms of the academic quality. We also are picking up the Best of Students Union Award, which we do every year. I think the awarding body has changed. We've been winning it for this long, because I think we've been winning the top award for over 13 years now, and also for Best Student Life. So Sheffield is a great place to study, a great place to live. I'm going to hand over to Scarlett. She will tell you about her experience as a student here, and then we can go and look at some other things outside.
So as Mark said, I'm Scarlett. I'm third year, which is slightly daunting now, a biosciences student. I did biological science in my degree. So why choose Sheffield to begin with? I think Sheffield is an absolutely amazing city. There's something for everyone here. If you want to listen to music, so many different types of music are in Sheffield. Music venues, markets and shopping. We have loads of public markets and a shopping's your thing. We've got independent shops, we've got Meadowhall that you can get some tram by, we've got High Street. We've got Food Hall. So if food is your thing, we've got the Cambridge Street Collective, which is a brand new food hall for us in Sheffield, which is Europe's biggest food hall. So if fooding or being a foodie is a thing that you're really interested in, you can do that. You can go out and try those new things, especially when you're first year and looking for things to do. That is a great thing to go and do. And kind of besides that, obviously Sheffield is in the Peak District. A third of Sheffield City is in the Peaks, which means that kind of getting from city, within the city, and moving out there is super, super easy. So the Students' Union, as mentioned, is great. I think one of the great things about the Students' Union is, and what kind of sets us apart from other unis, is how student-led it is. We run annual student elections, which means we get to vote in who is running the Students' Union. We vote for the president, we vote for all the people that represent us, and that means, as students, we can really shape where we want the Students' Union to go. We get to choose what's going on and kind of what they are focusing on, especially with like money and things like that. The Students' Union is a great place to go and study. Some of my favourite places to study, the libraries are wonderful. I really like going to the SU. Some of my favourite places are in there. They've got places to eat, cafes, so if you're like quickly in between lectures, you can hop in there, to eat. They've got spaces for societies to meet, they've got social spaces, and of course, with that, as you're going to be a fresher, you'll think about is the club. So Foundry is run by the SU, there will be weekly club nights, we'll do Raw on a Wednesday, which is for sport, then Saturday we'll do Pop-Tarts, there's lots of things going on all the time as well, which is great, especially when you're kind of coming from that way. English Student Village, it's really close by, it means those first few days you don't know Sheffield very well. You can come really close, and you go home, and you're not travelling far, you don't have to get an Uber, which makes the night out extra cheap, which is always great. Also events the SU run. So talking about freshers who are in Freshers Week, SU will run events kind of to encourage you to get out of your flat, get out of anything, into Sheffield, into the SU, into the city. They're often free, which is great, we're in a budget, you're not kind of having to make any financial commitment to that. They're also run events throughout the year. So if you're worried about making friends, there's things kind of been run all the time for you to hop on and join in. They take to York Christmas markets, they take to Manchester, they'll take Baths and Peaks. So they'll kind of really support you and kind of get some of those experiences. Sports. Sheffield has 50 sports clubs, which even after watching the Olympics, I didn't have to name 50 sports. That means if you have a previous interest in doing something like football or rugby or swimming, you can come to Sheffield, you can carry that on. But if you want to try something new, like golf, which I've never heard before, which is kind of like handball, fell running, cheerleading, there are 2 types of cheerleading, again, I found out when I came to Sheffield. You can either get involved with new people and try something new, or you can kind of carry on your niche sport that you've already done. But it's a great place to kind of start on the same platform as everyone else. Everyone else is probably new to these things as well, so you don't have to worry about people with more experience than you. We also have Campus League. So within these sports teams, even if you don't want to represent the university, you don't want to kind of take sport that seriously, you can still have an opportunity to play competitively. So if the university runs Campus League, you can join in, and it's kind of not as big as books, so you don't have to travel as far, but you can do that within Sheffield, you can still have to go and do matches. The SU runs Give It a Go events. So in Freshers and then in January, they'll run free events. So if you want to try one of these unusual sports or have a go to what you've already done, you can have it out for free. So if you want to try 5 sports, you don't have to pay £5 here, £5 there, which is eventually a food shop, or what could have been a food shop, you can have it at these things for free. It means you can go and try it. I don't like that. I'm never going to do that and dancing ever again. But I do really like caving. Caving is what I want to do. You get to try those things for free, and that's kind of facilitated by the SU. Clubs, societies, as we talk about my club, is something I'm very passionate about. The Students' Union, we have over 300 societies, and there's more every year. Every time I go to the activities fair, there are more people there, there are more people getting involved. That means if you are already doing something, or you have an interest, you will find your people in Sheffield. If you think it is niche, your people will be here in Sheffield. And honestly, I think it's a great way, because when you're first coming to university, trying to make those connections with people can be really hard. And just having that one thing in common can really be what kind of pushes you to make some friends to start off with. I think you can try new skills as well. So obviously we have our degrees, we have our academic skills, but also you can learn sign language, we have just done for the past year. You can do life saving. There are those things as well which you can kind of build on your personal skills away from kind of like your academic budget, I should say. Again, within bioscience we have 3 societies. So APS, which I'm the president of, and then one for MBB, which is molecular, and then one for biomedical sciences. Within that, we're often running bar crawls, pub trip, things like that. We're also going to do what we call social, so like we've done pottery painting, we've done Bob Ross painting, we've done arts and crafts, we have a football team, we've been wild swimming, which this year wasn't quite as warm. Last year, the previous year was much better, it's at 35 degrees, but we'll run again anyway. We're also running kind of academic events, we'll get alumni in, and you can have more of a personal experience with that, have a chat rather than kind of a lecture setup like this, and get to know some of the best ways to get into a certain job or a certain career that you are interested in. So, the city of Sheffield, where we all are, I think some of the best things about Sheffield is that in 2022, it was raised the top 3 most affordable cities for students, which when you're on a tight budget, it's absolutely brilliant. It means when you paid your rent, The money you have goes further. It means you have more of an opportunity to go and experience these things that Sheffield has to offer, and you can go on more nights out, and you're not limited by your budget on whether you can or can't experience these things here. Sheffield has loads of things to offer. We have the parks. 60% of the city is green space. That means there are parks everywhere. If you're in a building like here, we have a park over there and there's a park over there. This is particularly beneficial when you're revising for your exams. When you're trying to work really hard every day and you've done 12 hours, not that I recommend 12 hours, but you can go out into nature and kind of reconnect and kind of de-stress a bit. When you're in your first year, this here at the Botanical Gardens, quite by first year accommodation, people have barbecues, go out ice cream, like go to music. I think it's really nice third space to have. My personal favourite is Barnwell Hill, which unfortunately is a massive hill, but the sunsets are absolutely cracking, and you can go watch the fireworks for free in November, because you can see so much of Sheffield, you just kind of watch what everyone else is doing, and it's great. The food is something I think is, people don't expect about Sheffield, but it's a really big thing here. Sheffield was voted food capital of the UK this year. It's such a diverse city, and I think that's really reflected in the food scene. Obviously, we've got the Cambridge Street Collective, which is a food hall. We've also got loads of the food markets. I think one of my favourite places is called Nam Song, Vietnamese restaurant up in Brunel, which is by our first year accommodation. So lots of students will go there, it's a big student favourite. You get a student discount, which is great. And also, if you're looking for a bit more of an experience, you can sit on the floor, which I think my niece will do once, and then maybe I'll wait another year and we'll leave that there. But I think the food is something that is really good, and again, another really great experience you might not be able to see in other cities. So this here is the theatre complex. We have the biggest theatre complex outside of London. So that means if that's something you're interested in, you can definitely come and see that and experience that in Sheffield, but also maybe you don't want to take your parents on a night out, you know, more sophisticated evening where they come and visit you and take them to the theatre. Sheffield has loads of shops, which is great for employment opportunities. If looking for a job is something you're really interested in, you can do that here. You'll find loads of different areas. There's bars, there's clubs, and medical. Obviously, we should get travel to all higher. So it gives you a lot of kind of chance to get some extra money in places. We also operate transport links. We've got the train station, which takes you to all the major cities. You can get straight to Liverpool, you can go straight to Manchester, which means if you're limited by not having a car, or you're worried about kind of like having to get lifts and things, you can get the train home, which I do really every time, which my mum's annoys. Which means I'm hooking all myself on the train, but that is a possibility for me. Also, the trams in Sheffield, you can go to Rothbury, you can go to Kelman Island, you can go to Meadowhall, will take you anywhere, and they're only £2, which means you can travel quite large distances quickly for £2, hop on, hop off, it's super easy. Buses, again, are capped at £2. So you can get around the city, but you can walk, you can always walk. You can get there easily on the public transport as well. And the Peak District, obviously this is kind of something unique to where we are, is the Peak District. The Peak District is absolutely lovely. I think the best thing as well, you can get there on the bus, that's one bus journey away. A return ticket is only going to cost you £4. You can get a train there, you can also walk there. I walked to the Peak District from, like basically from uni before, and a lot of societies will take you out into the Peak District, like Burnley, or mountain biking, caving, mountaineering. These are the places that kind of societies can go to experience the Peak District a bit better. And then I think just to mention some good places, Mantle, we must go if you come here, Thor's Cave and Castleton. Because Castleton people travel so far to go to, and for us it's a tip trip. It's a few stops and that's it. If people come from London to go to Castleton, you can do an afternoon in Castleton. That's like how accessible it is for us. Thank you.
Thanks, Carl. That was brilliant again. I think it's worth recognising, of course, Scarlett's only been here for 2 years, so this will be you in 2 years' time. Our students are brilliant. Scarlett is not unique. This is any of the people you talked to today are punching at this level. So just think about what you can be. Be like Scarlett. Okay. So if we're thinking of wrapping up, then really, I guess these are the 3 big messages. We want to, reasons to study Sheffield would be that we are delivering that world-leading research experience and all of our teaching and research led. In the middle, whether you already know where you want to end up, and I want a focused degree, or whether you want a broad degree, or whether you just want to postpone making that decision. We have the degrees that will suit you. And then finally, employability is crucial. So this is embedded in all of our courses, and so we can be confident that you guys are going to go on and be briefed and get the jobs that you want to do. So I think we've probably got time for a couple of questions before we move out to different things. So do you have any questions? Oh, by the way, I'm mostly deaf, so I have to run up downstairs. This lot asking questions in lectures just to watch me run up and down the stairs.
On the slide of the case study that and study of all years, it only said by it, masters. Is that yeah? Is it only by the
Oh no.